All right, so welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going deep into the book of Exodus. Exodus chapter 35, specifically.
Oh, Exodus 35.
Yeah, it's a fascinating chapter.
Yes, it is.
It's all about how the Israelites, fresh out of Egypt, wandering in the desert, managed to build this incredible portable sanctuary called the Tabernacle.
Ah, the tabernacle. It wasn't your average IKEA furniture assembly project.
No kidding. And speaking of assembly, let's talk about the materials. I mean, this wasn't just some slapdash tent, right?
Right. The text lays out all sorts of very specific materials.
Yeah, like what kind of stuff are we talking about here?
Well, you've got your gold, your silver, brass. Then there's the fine linens, acacia wood, goat's hair.
Goat's hair.
Oh, yeah, and even badger skins.
Badger skins. Where do you even find badger skins in the desert?
No, that's a question for another deep dive, maybe. But the point is, this was high-end stuff. These materials tell us they were serious about this project.
It sounds like it. It wasn't just about function. There was a real emphasis on artistry and craftsmanship here.
Exactly. The tabernacle was meant to be a physical manifestation of God's presence among them, and they spared no expense.
This wasn't just a building. It was a statement.
A powerful statement.
Yeah.
You know, in the ancient world, this idea of a portable sanctuary, of God dwelling among the people, not just in some distant temple.
Right.
That was revolutionary. And it gets to the heart of what the tabernacle was all about, their unique covenant with God.
Okay, so we've got the materials, but let's talk logistics. How do you get a community of former slaves wandering in the desert to pull this off? I mean, did they pass the collection plate?
Well, the text says that God commanded Moses to gather offerings, but it had to be from those with a willing heart.
A willing heart. That's an interesting phrase.
It is, isn't it? It wasn't about taxation or coercion. This was about a genuine outpouring of devotion, of free will.
So no guilt tripping.
None whatsoever. The text even uses the phrase, whose heart stirred him up.
Stirred him up.
Yeah, like they were moved by something deeper, something beyond just duty or obligation.
A deeper sense of purpose.
Exactly. This was about expressing their faith, their commitment to God and to each other through tangible contributions.
And it really speaks to what motivates people to act collectively, doesn't it? A shared purpose, a common goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in this case, the people's response was overwhelming.
Oh, yeah.
They brought so much that Moses actually had to tell them to stop.
Wow. Talk about an outpouring of support. That's amazing. It's incredible to think about what that moment must have been like.
Oh, I know, right? To witness that kind of generosity and enthusiasm. But it's not just the quantity that's interesting. It's also the types of offerings that people brought.
What do you mean?
Well, take, for example, the women spinning goat's hair.
Goat's hair again. What's with all the goat's hair?
Well, in that society, textiles were essential, for clothing, shelter, trade. It was skilled, essential labor.
Right.
And here, that everyday task, something that might seem mundane, is elevated to a sacred act.
It's like taking something ordinary and imbuing it with a deeper meaning.
Exactly. And it tells us something about how even seemingly small actions, when done with intention, can become expressions of devotion.
It really makes you think about how we approach our own work. Are we just going through the motions, or are we bringing that sense of purpose, that willing heart to what we do?
That's a good question to ask ourselves. But back to the tabernacle. This was a massive project, right? They needed more than just materials and enthusiasm. They needed expertise.
Right. That's where Bezaleel and Aholiab come in, right?
Bezaleel and Aholiab, these are the guys.
The A-team of tabernacle construction.
Well, you could say that.
They weren't just skilled, though. These guys were divinely appointed, right?
Yes. God handpicked them, filled them with wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Talk about a dream resume.
That's one heck of a divine referral.
Yeah.
So these guys were like the ancient world's ultimate craftsmen.
You could say that. Their
Okay.
skills were seen as truly divinely inspired. But here's what's interesting. They weren't just master craftsmen. They were also given the responsibility to teach.
To teach.
Yes. They were tasked with passing on their knowledge and skills to others.
So it wasn't just about building a structure. It was about passing on a legacy of knowledge and skill.
Exactly. It speaks to the importance of mentorship. The idea that expertise isn't meant to be hoarded, but shared for the benefit of the community.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so we've got all these materials, we've got these skilled craftspeople, and we've got this community driven by a willing heart. But what were they actually trying to achieve here? I mean, what was the ultimate goal?
Well, remember, they were building a portable temple, a sacred space designed to house the Ark of the Covenant.
The Ark of the Covenant, yeah, that's a pretty big deal.
It is. It was the embodiment of their covenant with God. the physical representation of their unique relationship with the divine.
Okay, so not just a place of worship, but a symbol of something much bigger.
Precisely. And when you look at all the details described in the text, the fabrics, the embroidery, the precious stones, it's clear that they spared no effort. This wasn't just about function. It was about creating something beautiful, something truly worthy of their God.
Wow, it must have been pretty amazing to be a part of that effort, to know that you were contributing to something so much larger than yourself.
I think that's one of the most powerful takeaways from this story, this idea that everyone, regardless of their skills or social standing, had a role to play.
Everyone had a role to play.
Everyone, from the leaders bringing precious stones to the women spinning yarn, each contribution was valued and essential to the success of the overall project.
It's a reminder that even in a community as diverse as this one, there was a shared purpose that bound them together, a common goal that transcended their individual differences.
And that goal wasn't just about erecting a physical structure. It was about strengthening their connection to God, to each other, and to their shared identity as a people.
It's amazing to think about, isn't it? They were in the middle of the desert facing all sorts of challenges, and yet, amidst all that uncertainty, they found the strength and resources to create something truly magnificent.
It really speaks to the resilience of the human spirit, our capacity to create, to build, to connect with something larger than ourselves, even in the face of adversity.
It's a powerful reminder that we all have something to contribute, regardless of our circumstances. That even seemingly small acts, when driven by a willing heart, can have a profound impact.
Absolutely. And it begs the question, what are we building today? What are the projects, the endeavors that require this kind of communal effort and dedication?
That's a good question. Are we approaching our work, our relationships, our communities with that same willing heart, with that same sense of purpose and shared vision?
It's easy to get caught up in our own individual pursuits,
Ooh,
you know, to lose sight of the bigger picture.
Yeah, it's easy to forget that we're all part of something larger.
But the story of the tabernacle reminds us that true fulfillment often comes from contributing to something bigger than ourselves, from working together towards a common goal that transcends our individual differences.
It's like we're all part of just a tapestry, each thread representing our unique contributions, and together those threads create something beautiful, something meaningful.
A powerful image. And it makes you wonder, what threads are we adding to that tapestry? What legacy are we leaving behind for future generations?
Speaking of legacies, remember how God specifically chose Bezaleel and Aholiab and filled them with all that wisdom and knowledge? It wasn't just about their individual skills.
Right.
They were also tasked with teaching others.
Exactly. It highlights the importance of mentorship and knowledge transmission. The idea that expertise isn't meant to be hoarded, but shared for the benefit of the community.
It's like an early form of apprenticeship, a recognition that true mastery isn't just about individual skill, but about contributing to a larger legacy.
Yeah, it's like you're not just building something for yourself, you're building something for the future.
Exactly. And it really makes you think, doesn't it, about the importance of passing on those skills, that knowledge. Are we creating opportunities for others to learn and grow to become part of that legacy?
It's a big question, especially today when so much emphasis is placed on individual achievement. The story of the tabernacle really reminds us that we're all part of something much bigger. Our contributions, even the small ones, have the power to shape the future. Right, right. It's inspiring to think about it, you know. This community, they're in the middle of the desert, facing all these hardships, and yet they managed to create something so enduring, so meaningful.
It's remarkable.
It really is. The tabernacle wasn't just a display of skill and artistry, you know. It was a testament to their unwavering faith, their dedication to their community, and their belief in something bigger than themselves.
So as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into Exodus 35, what's the one key takeaway you hope our listeners will walk away with?
That's a good question. I think for me, it comes down to this. The building of the tabernacle was more than just a construction project. It was an act of faith, a powerful testament to the potential of collective effort, and a reminder that the most ordinary tasks can become extraordinary when they're infused with that willing heart.
Beautifully put. And it leaves us with one final thought-provoking question for our listeners. What project, what endeavor in your life requires that kind of communal effort and dedication? What would it take to tap into that willing heart, not just within yourself, but within others, to achieve something truly remarkable?
Maybe it's supporting a local charity. Maybe it's finally starting that creative project you've been dreaming of. Or maybe it's just offering a helping hand to someone in need. Whatever it may be, remember the story of the tabernacle and remember the amazing power of a community driven by a willing heart.